All right, today we have episode 50. So we are at the halfway point of hitting 100 episodes of Ops. When I first designed Ops was a thing that I wanted to incorporate for operations that I'm going to have throughout, like military operations. This is an operation about world leaders being the world's best, other operations between Contagion for Death Guard or whatever special guests we might have on it. But today, we have an amazing guest that's going to talk about world eaters and break down exactly how Morgan Timpy did over the weekend at the Challengers Cup and 2 weeks ago at my event, the Crucible 2025. Stay tuned and locked in, everyone. Today, so we have the amazing Morgan Timpy, fresh off a 5-2 run at Crucible 2025, playing the World Eaters, plus a solid sixth place with his team at the Green Banner Challengers Cup. We're going to dig into his list, strategy, meta, and how team play changes the game. So, first things first, you went 5-2 at Crucible. When you look back, what was the one decision or matchup you changed if you could, and why?
Matchup decision I would change.
With the tough questions first. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I would say this is a weird one because normally, like, you kind of look at a list, you kind of look at like an event, and you kind of prep for it and think, oh, well, maybe if I change this around this, I could have made this matchup easier. Truthfully,
Yeah.
the two losses I had really came down to matchup experience and kind of like the mission that we were on rather than like anything to do with the list. Like my first loss going into the event was actually round one into David. And that was my first time playing World Leaders into Warpbane on Search Destroy, which is like a super unfavorable match for that matchup. And
Yep.
it felt very playable. There was a moment in that game where if David doesn't kill like a rapid ingress down like exalted unit with the Slaughterbound with the Berserker Glaive, he loses his expansion with the Land Raider on it because the only thing that could shoot it when it came down was the Land Raider, and then he's pushed off his expansion. The game gets really rough for him. And like both the games that like were losses because it was that one into Warpbane and it was later in the event. I think it was the end of day 2 into EC. Both matchups I mean I was going to the event with like very little matchup experience at all. Like I think I played like 2 30-minute games just to like kind of get the vibe for like how World Leaders worked, and then kind of went into it. And EC is a weird one. There's not like a lot of EC players in Florida in general.
Correct.
So like actually after playing the match, I was like, okay, I understood. Like I committed just a little bit too much. Like when they pushed all into me, and you just have to make sure that like. Because like the whole EC strategy, like the way that he played it in that game was that he pushed everything forward, and then I think I pushed a little bit too much out to kill everything because then Noise Brain started picking up everything, and like it even like it was so close still after that like if I kept one extra like 8-bound and one extra like exalted unit back, it's still because I still would have killed like everything at that point that had pushed out. Then the game gets like really you basically once those two units connect with the Noise Braids, which is basically the only units you had left, the game's over. But like it's those games were so tight that I didn't feel bad about the list. It was more of just like navigating that match for the first time into people who had played their lists way more than I did. Like I could feel the difference in it, like in that like I didn't make anything just like a terrible decision, but like you get a kind of a macro level like understanding of the game after playing the first time.
Right.
So good. I hope that answers that question.
No, you're good. No, we love it. We love it. I love it how you broke it down and everything. And I know I hit you really hard with the questions immediately. I didn't give you an opportunity to kind of speak about yourself and your accolades and things like that. But I just kind of want to get everyone into it so they understand exactly what you had to go through over the weekend. But with that being said, let the people know kind of where you're from, what's your kind of day one army, why you're playing World Eaters, and why you're so passionate about World Eaters right now, because this is what this is all about.
So, Okay, so for me, I started playing 40K around three and a half years ago ish. I started with Tau, and I played Tau for quite a long time, and it was kind of a weird thing because the game previously I played 1 year of miniatures before that, which was in War Machine, and the only armies I ever played were pure melee, only melee. I never touched a gun in War Machine ever. And so when I switched to 40K, I was like, okay, I kind of want to learn how to play like gunline armies because they weren't really that great in War Machine. But I was like, it's 40K, you have guns, let's learn how to do that. And I stuck with it for a long time. Part of it was because I really enjoyed the hobby aspect more than like competitive at that point. And then when I kind of got the 9th edition rules for Tau, I had a lot of fun playing it. But then like as they kind of like leveled out over time, and I was just kind of like, the army wasn't that strong, but also more importantly, like I kind of realized that like the typical like standard linear gun line list wasn't really something I was enjoying that much. Like a lot of the tools and tricks that you had in 9th edition book, like planes or like crisis suits that were zipping through walls, like you didn't have. So I kind of like started veering off more and more from Tau into the first big departure for me in 10th edition was actually BT Gladius. I took that to my first big 8-man team event, and I really enjoyed playing that so much more than I ever enjoyed playing Tau. And then I just kind of like I gave them a little bit more of a chance when their book came out in that edition, and then it was the same thing. The more I just kept playing, the more I'm like, this is A to B, like it's so linear. I wasn't having fun playing it, so I just kind of kept bouncing around armies. And I just kind of realized I really enjoyed playing melee armies, and I kept flirting with world leaders, but they just like never really like made the cut for a lot of the like, because for the most of the stretch that I've played 40K, I've kind of focused on teams, especially the last like two years ish, and they never really made the cut, or they weren't something we really needed in a team. And then fast forward to now, I had a stretch of nights, and then after that, we were coming up into like kind of our new team season. They're getting changed, but more importantly, for Challengers Cup, which was an event we put together very last minute, we had somebody playing Marines who already gave up 2 of their factions to somebody else. So this is their third down the list. We're like, okay, we can't. This is their C option. We can't go further down. There's no further down the list for them. And we picked up Dustin, who is kind of like local to the southeast, and he only plays knights. So we're like, okay, I'm gonna learn to play something new. And I've looked at all the things that were available, and I was like, world leaders. This is so much more fun than anything else. I've always like looked at them. I've always thought I got really close to playing them multiple times, and I was like, all right, let's do it. So I picked it up after a long discussion, like a week before Crucible, and I said, I'm gonna take it to Crucible. I'm gonna learn how to play it at Crucible. So I went in. I was like, I don't care how I do. I just want to learn how to play this army, and it was a really fun ride. I planned on playing before the slate came out, and then halfway through those couple days, the slate came out. I was like, all right, cool. The army's better now. I don't have to worry about knights as much. This is awesome. Like a Slaughterbound with an Exalted, just everything in the game. It's amazing.
Sends anything to the moon, dude. Anything to the moon. Matter of fact, I won an RTT over the weekend. This is your show, so not to get into me, but I won an RTT, and I was pleasantly surprised on how the Slaughterbound with Exalted just sent anything to the moon, and he does it by himself. So no, he does. He's absolutely amazing. So no, I'm glad that you're on our side now. You've seen the light and seen that Khorne is better than anything else, right? With world leaders.
Khorne's always been my favorite. Like, so this is actually the first Chaos army I've ever like really like actually wanted to own. And it's funny because when I first started playing miniatures, I played for a very short period of time in middle school, and I played fantasy, and I had a Khorne demon army. I was those little bloodletters and blood crushers, and I thought they were the coolest guys. So it's definitely also a little bit of nostalgia, but yeah, no, like it was a big change. Like Exalted are a huge deal, like because before you capped at a T10, anything that was above it, you could struggle quite a bit to kill. Your only answers for it were like Khorne's unit with 10 berserkers were like the only thing that could kind of kill everything in the game. but like you only have one, and it's a very expensive unit. And to your point, I had multiple times throughout like the kind of like the 13 rounds of Warhammer that I've played in the last 2 weeks, where just 3 exalted would walk out, touch a land rare equivalent, and just kill it.
Yep.
And I would just be like, I would always multi-charge it because I would assume that maybe they spike down because they hit on 3s, and then they would just be like, no, we got it. Boop.
Boop. Sends it right to the moon. They're absolutely amazing. So since we're speaking about the units, right? We're talking about the units that you have in your list right now. So you call the list the Noah's Ark, and this is your list at the Crucible, which is the same list you used for the Challengers Cup as well. Correct me.
Point per point. The only thing I changed was the list name, and I changed it to original and mine, which was a joke because because originally when we were going to Crucible, me, one of our friends Charlie, one of our friends Jack, we were all gonna play the same list. Jack had to drop, and Charlie, 20 minutes before list lock, changed his list from world leaders list to agents. So we're almost like, all right, I guess I'm still playing the list, but like this is kind of funny. But the list is called Noah's Ark because it's 2x2x2. Except for Khorne's unit and the Demon Prince, everything is in 2s because it just kind of slots in that way, and it gives you the options you need to kind of deal with everything. Like just going down the list, Demon Prince with the Demon Prince with a -1 damage was huge.
Yes.
That guy is really important for being able to force your opponent to play the game. Because there aren't many units in World Leaders where you can stick it on an objective, like close to your opponent, and it doesn't just trivially die.
Like you said, it forces your opponent to have to shift and come to that. If it's your expansion or whatever expansion, right? It forces them to come over to that expansion and take that objective marker. And he's not something that just easily rolls over, right? He smacks hard. So,
oh my god, 16 sweep attacks. That guy, 16 sweep attacks, 8 strikes. I played like the one quick test game I played before Crucible. I played into GSC, and I got into a point in the game where I didn't even realize how many sweep attacks he had, and then I charged into a neophyte brick, and I was like, oh my, oh, he just killed it. It's
and then with sustains and lethals, or sustains and mortals or something, or death wounds rather, right?
It's got AP baseline, so into neophytes, you just 1 CP for +1 AP. Just every single wound kills a guy.
Yep.
So he was a really big deal. Khorne's unit, I'm sure you know, Khorne is insane.
Amazing.
That guy, if I could run 2 of him, I call the second one Khorne's brother, and they would make the list because.
Auto include.
The slaughter bounts are really good too. So there's a very specific. So one of the things I was concerned about when I was wading into World Leaders was that they just wouldn't have enough units to kind of trade with your opponent, and because you have these units of 8-bound that cost kind of not a crazy amount now, but they're still kind of expensive and they're really fragile. So when they go out, they're gonna die. The slaughter bounts amp them up, but not their durability. So when they go out, they're gonna one-shot something, which is something you need in some matchups. But what I really like is that the slaughter bounts by themselves are so strong that you can easily just detach them from units and play them as their own individual guys to just have additional trade pieces. And I did that quite a lot actually. I really liked it. It was
or split your attacks between 2 different enemies, right? And he will send the vehicle to the moon, and then the unit will send something else. I did that in an event where I tagged 2 vehicles and I split them. He sent that vehicle to the moon, and the unit sent that vehicle to the sun, and it was fun. It was a great time.
I had a round at Crucible where I played in a Tau, and I split their attack. I honestly could have split if there were 2 Riptides in front of me and killed 2 Riptides, but I ended up splitting just the Slaughterbound and 1 Exalted into a Riptide and just flatlining it by way more than I needed. And then the 2 other Exalted picked up 3 stealth suits, and I'm like, this feels really good. I like this. I like this a lot.
And especially with the Berserker Glaive. So I'm assuming the Berserker Glaive one, you're either rapid ingressing, deep striking, something like that, and then the favorite one is staying on the tables. That way you can get your rerolls. But the Berserker Glaive one, man, he just, oh my gosh, dude, he just sends anything to a whole different galaxy. He hits so hard, dude.
He hits unbelievably hard, and he's really helpful for killing vehicles when you put on the Exalted because it goes to damage 4. If you are running into not a lot of vehicles, it's still really good because you put him into like an 8-bound squad, and he's still damage 3. He picks up Terminator equivalents. Like, oh my god, strength 12 is such a big deal for killing Terminators now too, because you just like hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, lethal sustain and dev. Just like, that guy's amazing. Love that guy. Yeah. The Khorne Berserkers and the Rhino, that unit is so fundamentally important to how world leaders want to play. It gives you a missile unit that can go and flip any objective because it's high OC. It kills anything in the game. It can walk out and pick up. So a really crazy part about that unit is it's so good at killing anything in the game, but it's also really good at splitting. So you can have it like walk out, charge like multiple units of like trash, have just Khorne hit something really important, and like maybe him and like 2 Eviscerators, and just pick it up by itself, and then all of the chain swords just pick up like 2 to 3 trash units, and your opponent goes, "Oh my god."
Yep.
Oh Lord.
I love it. Did you do that a couple of times at Crucible or the team event?
All the time.
Really?
So especially on 1, right? You can stage it in that center ruin, and like the threat range
or the little house. The little house.
The little thing that you stick it right there. And then the threat range that you can project is basically to your opponent's deployment objective. And that gets really scary. And it's very difficult to screen, because if your opponent wants to try to screen it the normal way, which so here's the problem. If they screen it the normal way, you take 6 units, pile, and consolidate. You charge 2 units in. The first one kills the screen. The second one, which is the Khorne Berserkers, so the first unit that's not the Khorne Berserkers comes in, kills the screen. The second unit which is the Khorne Berserkers, then pile in 6 and then slam into something. And it is so hard to play. Even if you're like playing around it, the amount of like space that it dictates is crazy.
It does.
Yeah, I end up doing that quite a couple of times. It's really difficult to play around in shooting armies, especially on denser boards, because the areas you have to play in are so congested that like there's only so much you can do about it when you're moving like 17 inches and consolidate 6. Like, what are you gonna do about it?
Those are my MVPs every game I play. I usually play 2 units with Lord Invo, but I like to go through screens, rapid ingress, that unit, stuff like that. I really love your list. Everyone's gonna love your list, man. Berserkers are amazing though. I think they're the best in the list. I love the 8-bound, Exalted 8-bound, but the Berserkers just do everything, man. They'll deal, like exactly what you said, they'll deal with any problem. If it's trash, if it's elite, if it's Canis, if it's Mortarion. Dude, I killed Mortarion with Khorne and the whole 10-man with sustains and lethals. Beautiful.
They do that. They're basically there's a giant button that says "go to sleep," and every time they're always hitting it when they get out of that Rhino.
Yeah. So you have the always domestic chaos spawn 2 in the.
I wish I could run 3. I just no points for it in this list. They're so good. They're so amazing.
Amazing unit for 90 points. It's still so cheap. Hopefully GW is not listening. Keep them exactly where they are. Matter of fact, you can drop them in points.
I don't know what points they have to put in for me to not run them. They kill every other trash in the game. They are so fast. They go through walls. They are beautiful.
Yeah, I do actions. They do it all. Yep. And then you have starting with the 2x2, you have the spawn. You have the 2 8-bound, the 2 exalted, the 2 forge fiend, and the 2 jackals. People really don't understand how much value it is to have 2 jackal units. At least in the way that I play, where I stagger, right? Like I'll stagger all of my units out and put units behind it, and then put jackals in front of it as well, and just stagger my units, right? And like put Rhino, Berserker, Demon Prince with 8-bound or Exalted 8-bound, and jackals here and jackals here, and I basically just bubble out my whole army and just move like that in formation. So
Oh yeah.
What did you do over the weekend, brother? How did you use yours effectively? Because there's so many ways.
So jackals are amazing. Like the first unit almost always goes on the home objective just to sticky it, because what ends up happening is most games of 40k, your opponent is going to go ahead and put something in reserves. So you have one half of the map where the jackals are kind of sitting there at the home objective, screening out. And then once you get past that point, then they start, like usually around turn 3, then you can be like, okay, I can advance them into the building, then turn 4 advance them into the thing, and then turn 5 I can throw them on the objective to contest it.
Yep.
The other unit is a lot more interesting. So you use it on a lot of maps to kind of contest that like flank, that other half, that like other side of the map. But your options for what you can do with it are quite interesting. So if you run into like something where you have an expansion and let's say like you want to really put the demon prince on the center because like you want to force your opponent to really commit, you can just like put the so what you can do is you can put like a couple jackals on your expansion and then like put the rest of them behind. So your opponent has to then gauge, okay, well, can I go kill 10 jackals?
Yep.
Because if you kill like 4, I'm gonna pull them out. If you don't put anything on the point and just want to shoot them, you sticky it, which, okay, problem solved. You just committed to killing a 65-point unit, which now got me 5 points. Or they don't do anything, and you're like, this is fine, because either they do nothing, give you points, or they put stuff on the objective, and either way, you're like whatever they put on the objective is not going to cost 65 points. Almost any point of the time. The other really cool thing about them is that for a 65-point unit, they hit way harder than most 65-point units. Like the amount of times I like later in the game or like in an early skirmish, I'll charge them in. They'll be like, why are you charging jackals? They don't do anything. And I'm like,
they do.
4 attack speed, strike 5, lethal sustained. I'm like, okay, cool, they're dead.
And if you have Berserker Warband, you can put AP1 on them, so they're 5/1/1, right? Most of them is pretty crazy.
Skull Smasher guys go to AP2 damage to, and you're like, yeah. So no, jackals are really big. Really big unit. I really enjoyed having the 2 units of them. At certain points, I kind of would be like, I kind of wish I had Goremongers, but like, truthfully, I don't think there was a single game that I played where I felt like having it versus the stuff that they would have replaced made any real difference. Like, they're just, most of the time, it's not like a big deal if your opponent wants to try to wall you off, because the matchups where that is a serious issue, Goremongers don't fix, unfortunately.
Yeah, correct. No, you're right. You're right. They're hit or miss. And you probably use them an 1/8 of your games, to be honest with you, Goremongers. Like, they're a good unit, right? They have a reactive move. They have Lance on the charge. So you can put AP1 on them with the stratagem, things like that. So they can relatively do pretty well. I mean, they infiltrate out, so you can screen units out, things like that. But
they're a good unit. They're just a good unit.
They're a good unit for 85 points. But like you were saying, in about 1/8 of your games, you actually use them. So probably not worth picking.
The unfortunate part is that they have to replace something, and you look at the list and you're like, oh, I really like Spawn.
I really like Sticky. I really like Sticky. Yeah.
I really like Sticky. Don't want to, they almost cost the same amount of points as Slaughterbound, and I don't want to, I like those guys too.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I guess the last part of the list is the Forge Fiends, which we talked a little bit about. They are so a really big thing before I came to the event was whether or not they were like something you really needed, or if you could just get away with running more 8-bound and stuff like that. And they fundamentally changed the way your opponent has to play around your army in a way that is beyond significant. Your opponent cannot disrespect you, essentially, which, like, against Oryx and other armies, they could just stay on the open. Like, you're not gonna, against Warlord, you're not really gonna get shot by anything meaningful. And when you have the Forge Fiends, your opponent has to, like, hide, which, oh my god. Like, ignoring the fact that they shoot hard, just that part gives you so much room to play around with. That unit is amazing. It's amazing in gunline armies, because they don't just disrespect you. Into melee mirrors, you can get into situations, which I got into quite often, where you trade trash, and you start getting to the point where they run out of trash very quickly, because your stuff is very good at killing other trash, and the things that they're using to like kill Spawn or like small units of 8-bound, or like these kind of way more expensive units, instead of you committing to kill them, you're just shooting them with like your Forge Fiends, and then just throwing like another cheap trash unit to like finish it. And you're like, okay, we're gonna play this training game until you start hitting me with like 300, 400 point units onto like these 60 point units on objectives, and like, okay, cool. Like, this is my favorite thing in the whole wide world. But so I love those guys. My favorite.
No, I love it. Love the content, brother. Also, so wanted to know, right? What were the synergies, or what were your overperforming units that you had over the 2 events before we get into the teams event, specifically for Crucible?
I would say the #1 performing guy is Khorne every single time. Whenever he hit something, it went to sleep, and the movement. And so the weird thing about that unit, which I didn't really quite expect, is, and I talked to quite a few people about this, and I still can't figure out if I was just really unlucky or not. His Blood Surge almost never really mattered. I didn't care that it didn't, because he killed anything that he touched, but the Blood Surge I thought would be like crazy broken, which is kind of fine. Because like what ended up happening is that there's still just 10 tactical Marines, and like killing 10 tactical Marines in like one activation isn't really the hardest thing in the world.
No, it isn't.
The second one is kind of tough. It really would be close between Spawn and like the Berserker Glaive Slaughterbound guy.
Yeah.
Spawn opened up every single game, every single time, and then like whenever you really need someone to clutch up and kill something, that Berserker Glaive guy was on the job. He clocked in real hours.
Yep. Hard working, man. He was on that drill, the construction site, and he does it well, man. Yeah, that dude is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, at the Green Banner Cup, your team placed 6th place. How much team strategy versus your individual list influenced decisions going into that event?
List. So for my particular list, we got into a weird spot with our kind of comp where, because of how the event was structured, it's 5 tables of GW and 3 tables of WTC. And
oh wow, really? Is it? I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
The event was very well run.
So it's an 8-man then, right? Yeah.
It's an 8-man. Yeah, it was an 8-man. So the 5 GW tables, same every single round. It was 1, 2, 3, 6, and 8. And so playing in kind of the southeast, most of the time we play with kind of the NTL format. We have fixed GW tables, and it's usually the same terrain for the event. Here, the last 3 were WTC, and it changed every round. So there were 3 different WTC tables every single time, and they weren't the same. So like some of the earlier rounds, they were way more open. Some of the later rounds, it was like hammer and anvil and tipping point, and they were way more closed. So we had to really kind of like figure out like how we kind of want to weight our comp versus like melee versus shooting with kind of like this divergent paths that you could take depending on which teams you fought at which rounds. Because like, the early ones when we're shooting, later ones when we're dense. So we kind of went with, well, we're probably going to play the better teams later in the event, so let's go with that. So I ended up taking World Leaders as kind of a blunter to fight basically any other melee army in the game. If they mess up, you can kill them, but we kind of figured there'd be a lot of other World Leaders lists, a lot of other like EC orcs, a lot of like Blood Angels, and World Leaders were pretty well equipped to just deal with that, and we felt pretty comfortable with just kind of like scrumming it into kind of whatever. And that's kind of what ended up happening at the event. Like, I just never really cared about my table choice, and I was basically just going to fight into almost anything. There weren't really a lot of matchups that were like super miserable. I did unfortunately find one of them, which was kind of rough.
What factor is that one?
Admech is really, really rough for World Leaders, actually. That one was rough. Especially because it ended up being on one of the more open tables, which is compounded like the amount of, so like running through the event top to bottom, it was really interesting. So a really big part of the teams meta I've noticed right now is that orcs and World Leaders, a lot of this is surprising to me, So the orc one less so. But for orcs, a lot of people are taking 20-man boys units with gas.
Yes. Yep.
Really big hammer unit. And then a lot of world leader players at the event took like multiple big units of Khorne berserkers.
Like 20 bricks and stuff like that with jug lords and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, they're really good into the meta right now, honestly. And
yep.
If you go against Eldar, which is one of the best factions in the game, I mean, Eldar basically can't do anything. You start tagging everything with that 20-man, and it's just like.
So the big 60-man bricks, like so the big because the users they're taking like 3 units of 20, for example.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really good into like Eldar, where you can kind of just run them down. What I kind of found was that it's actually not that great into like the melee mirror at all, actually, because like to give you an example, round 2 we got probably our first really difficult round of the event. We ended up playing against Team Quebec. And I ended up getting basically scrummed into their world leader player who was playing 60 berserkers. And
wow,
it was
got a mirror match. Got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a mirror match, but it was one of the weirdest mirrors because it didn't feel like one because I was playing a bunch of units and he had like 3.
Yeah. Was he doing vessels or something, or what was he doing?
No, it was warband. He had 1 unit of 20 with Khorne, two different units, each of them led by a Juggerlord, and it's a good list. The thing is, like in the mirror, what ends up happening is he can afford to get like 2 units of spawn, like 1 8-bound unit, and like maybe I think he had like a jackal unit or something. Spawn go out.
Yep.
And I go, okay. So here's a really big problem in that matchup is that the 20-man berserker units die to units that are cost way less than them. So 10 Khorne and 10 berserkers kills Khorne and 20 berserkers. 3's 8-bound with the slaughterbound kill 20 berserkers. So once you can just kill their spawn and you kill their 1 unit of 8-bound, they have to play the game with these like 400-point units. And also Forge Fiends are all blast.
Yes.
So what ended up happening was that I just basically just stood back and we played a trash game where he threw his chaos spawn out. I go throw like a 3-man exalted 8-bound squad with buffs up. If I kill it, I don't. If I do, it's great. And then, but I'm contesting the point. He's not. And their spawn are not good at killing 8-bound back. So eventually, what ends up happening is since I have more trash to play the game with, I kill his, and he gets to the point where he's like, I have to commit. Like, also really funny in that game was that Jackals are really cool. At one point, I was just like, what if I just like pushed up on the left side of the map, like over here, and just took Jackals and did this in front of the Berserker unit, so they can't run forward because they can't fly. And I'm like, and he's like, all right, I gotta try to commit now and try to like get on the point with this 20-man Berserker unit and kill Jackals. I'm like, hell yeah, you do. And then I think I got like 18 hits.
Almost 400 point, like almost like 350, almost 400 point unit killing 65 points.
Yeah. There's nothing up on the list that can do anything. It's those 3 units were like 12 to 1500 points of his list, and it's like it's really good. But the second you can't like run out at your opponent in a straight line because they have multiple units that can kill it, it gets really tough. And that was true also in the orc matchup. It's a little bit hard because they have more trash even with the 20-man like big brick of gas, but it's the same thing where like orcs actually really don't like having to kill spawn because they want a wall and they want to get a really good wall off. And the second you tell them that like they have to play this kind of like piecemeal game where anything that comes out is going to die, it's going to get shot by Forge Fiends. Killing spawn is like with like Storm Boys doesn't work. They're really bad at doing it, so they have to either commit really hard with the wall to try to like kill trash, or they have to like basically do really janky stuff, which probably just doesn't work. Because like the second you do that, and you also just put 1 demon prince on the center, they overcommit into you, and then you just throw like Khorne's unit, you throw like 8-bound with a slaughterbound, and like these units will pick up like everything. And once they're past like kind of the wall turn, their army gets so much worse than yours. Like you don't care about anything else that they're doing. You're just kind of like, all right, like I have my rules for the whole game, you have your rules for 1 turn, and that 1 turn is keeping you barely in the game. And it's so yeah, like the MSU list felt really good because you had those resources to force your opponent to play the game. And even if like they try to threaten stuff like fight on death or like whatever unit they want to do, you have Forge Fiends there to soften it significantly. And
yes, you do. Yep.
Forge Fiends with
And that's
blast
what you
are
do with
really
orcs.
good.
And that's very intelligent of you, right? Like that definitely shows your world leader's intellect, right? Because all you do with orcs is just sit back, blast them to death, whittle them down, and then smack them with everything else. Try to bait them out with a demon prince, exactly like you said. So people who are listening, right, pay attention to this. This is some great strategy tips that Morgan is giving out at this show, man. It's absolutely amazing. So thank you, Morgan, once again. Continue. I'm sorry. If you allow me, though, I want to make a statement and ask a question.
Okay.
So, statement being, you know, world leaders are absolutely amazing. So I'm glad that you're absolutely playing them, right, and continue to do your thing. Question: do you think that there's a world where 20 berserkers, just one unit of 20 berserkers, and maybe just a unit of 10, actually does very well on the top tabletop, or you just think that's way too much?
I think it can work. So I don't think the unit itself is terrible. I think when you take two, like you take like the really big hordes, like you're talking like not just like 20, but you're talking like 60. You kind of pigeonhole yourself into being like very specific in the pairing process and like in singles. And if you just don't find those matchups, it gets significantly worse. I think for world leaders right now, I think that question really depends on the meta. I think the unit itself is not fundamental. Is a good unit actually. Like it's very scary and it does a job very well of like swarming the board with OC, killing a bunch of stuff. But like I actually think it's probably not terrible right now. I would actually consider testing it because I think the two hardest matchups for world leaders currently in the meta, unfortunately, are Admech, which are very good right now, and Eldar. Eldar, if you're not running a ton of berserkers, is very difficult. We to give you an idea for Challengers Cup, we took a Warhost list, and this list we had tested and played a lot, and we basically came to the conclusion after a bunch of test games into multiple world leaders players that the matchup's unplayable. If the Warhost player knows what they're doing, what they do is they hyper move block you.
Yep.
And you cannot escape it. And everything in Eldar can kill everything in like world leaders. I think the matchup changes quite a bit if they're playing Aspect Host because Aspect Hosts can't fall back and shoot. And they do war damage, but they're already dying to anything that shot you, so that didn't matter. But in Warhost, unfortunately, they move way faster and they fall back and do everything, which is rough. It's very rough when you can get move blocked by units that move 30 inches. Like that's raw. Like I don't know how you're supposed to play around that. Like the only thing you could really do is run big units of berserkers and basically run at them, because like once you reach that breakpoint, they can kind of struggle to kill all of them, and if a couple of them touch them, they start losing units at light speed.
Exactly. As soon as they get touched, they disappear. Correct.
Yep. And then Admech, I'm not quite sure about Admech. I think the berserker unit probably helps, but I think Admech is like a weird situation where I think it's probably one of the best armies in the game right now. I think the changes were extremely significant, and the only upside to that is that no one plays Admech.
I know. So you can't learn it because you can't unless you're on TTS or something, right? But it's not the same.
There's very few good Admech players in the whole community. You see, the reason why I'm so confident about how like crazy it is because one of the people on our team plays Admech, and oh boy, it was horrific. It was like watching a train wreck. It was like every single round there was nothing that was for our opponent's team that was good into it, and every single time it like because it is now an army that does damage, has a ton of OC, has a ton of units, fire and phase, move blocks, has melee units, has good shooting units. It is durable. Like it has everything that you need to push and murder stuff. And like the scariest lists at the event were Admech, both when we played against it the one time, thankfully only the one time, and then when we had on our team, like they were the two scariest. Like spoiler is that the round we got into Art of War, it was really funny because both the a Tucker on our team was playing it, and then Siegler was playing it on their team, and no one on either team wanted to deal with it. No one, everyone was like, oh, whoever gets paired into it is going to get shot in the head, and they're going to have to take one for the team. And, yeah, that's what ended up happening. Unfortunately, I found my way in the scrum to that one. So that was one of the rough losses I had in the weekend. Was playing on open table against Admech, and even on dense table, that match was tough. Because
that is,
yeah, but
so we just gotta avoid those matchups, right? Is there anything like that we can do other than maybe a 20-man brick? I mean, what do you? Maybe, right?
Maybe. I think Admech, you just kind of have to like pray that no one figures out that they're broken. To be honest, Eldar, I think the 20-man brick helps a lot, probably. Because I can tell you, if you're playing against Aspect, it doesn't really matter that much. Aspect's actually really not that difficult. If they're playing a very aggressive Warhost list, it can be quite difficult, and you probably need to lean heavily into like the big units of Berserkers that playing, because playing a standard list, equal skill level, those lists, the Warriors list loses every single time, unfortunately. It's really rough. It was quite funny because people have this really big misunderstanding about like Eldar currently, and every time we went the pairings process at Challengers Cup, they would put like some hyper aggressive melee list like Space Wolves or Warriors into it, and then Bryce would walk back over like 20 minutes later and be like, yeah, it's 20-0. Just like you can't do anything against it because they're move blocking you to death and shooting you with fire dragons. That, oh my god, Eldar triggers me so hard. That was evil.
PTSD. No, I know. I completely get it. Fuegan is every World Eater's like arch nemesis, right? You see him on the tabletop, you're like, oh man, I gotta deal with this guy. He's just gonna hop, he's gonna pop out, shoot me, and go back in his vehicle.
I guess I can probably explain it a little bit more. Because people assume that like fire dragons and stuff are good at killing vehicles. They're good at killing everything. They're very good at killing 8-bound. So when you're playing World Leaders into Eldar, what you essentially want to do is you want to go kill all of their trash. Step one, as much trash as you can kill. Everything that connects is going to kill something. You want to project threat as much as possible and try to get the Eldar player afraid. Once they're afraid, you are winning the game.
And keep Fuegan 18.1 away from anything that you deem important.
Basically, yeah. Unfortunately, with sustained 5s and flips, that guy can walk up and probably kick 3 8-bound units into the dirt and then get back to the transport, and that's very difficult to play around. If the Eldar player realizes that they have a loaded gun pointed at you and they're not afraid, it gets quite tough. But once they're afraid and they're kind of like trying to play like the typical Eldar game plan of like, I'm gonna fire and fade from a corner and get out and shoot you a little bit and run backwards, that's not that hard to deal with. And like most people unfortunately play that way, which is very good for World Eaters.
Which I love too. World Eaters is such a skill gap abusive army. It really is, right? It abuses people that are very novice level players, and if you have a high skill level, you will abuse the points in that game. I've played into games where I played against Death Guard and I allowed 5 points to 100. And you look at that Death Guard list and you're like, oh my gosh, like this can do some work. And you have that disparity, and World Eaters will make sure that it shows and it glares that disparity between the skill levels. So
World Eaters are a very high skill cap army. They are very difficult to play. They demand that you have a fundamental understanding of not only 40k but how melee armies function and how they need to work. You cannot run this army forward. It will not work. It will never ever work. If it works, it's because your opponent basically just turned around, laid on the floor, and started crying a lot instead of playing the game.
Exactly.
But if
go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
No, if you play it though and you learn and you like really start like really getting into the fundamentals of melee, like things like interrupts, things like fight on death, playing around fight first, things like how to stage, things like how to make your opponent really start playing the game and not like hiding in their ruins, you will be rewarded tremendously. And that first game where you get your opponent to like like once you start punishing mistakes with world leaders, you will feel so good. It will feel amazing. You'll be like, I'm so smart. My brain is so big. There's so many wrinkles. Oh my god.
The big brain. Exactly, man. Appreciate you very much, man. This information was absolute gold. Do you have anything that anyone you want to shout out or anything you want to say before we head out, brother?
Shout out to all my boys. Shout out to all the guys we went to the Challengers Cup with. Shout out to Mark. Shout out to Steve. Shout out to Tucker, Bryce, Garrett, Eric. Shout out to the whole Florida community. I think Florida is like genuinely the most fun. Like not only the most fun, the best sportsmanship, the like most enjoyable to be around. I think it's legitimately one of the strongest metas in the entire country and one of the most enjoyable to play in. And if you play in it, you're gonna both enjoy it and become way better at the game. And Florida rocks. I love Florida.
And you're definitely gonna get a challenge when you come and play against a Floridian, man. It's always a good game, like Morgan said, and you're definitely gonna play a quality competitive game. So hopefully he sees you in the future. Hopefully I see you in the future. Thank you very much, Morgan. Once again, this was invaluable information. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it. I'm going to make sure to put the list in the middle of the YouTube's description section so everyone can kind of catch that and follow along with Morgan's list and what he used at Crucible and at the Challengers Cup. Challengers Cup was in, what state was that in again?
It was in Utah. It was in Salt Lake City. It was in the convention center. And wow, if I could say one last thing.
Sure. Do it.
We went there with kind of an assumption that Florida is a very difficult meta to play in, and that we would match up very well against other teams in the country. And we won every game except for 2. We tied the 3rd place team and lost to the 2nd place team. The 2nd place team's from Florida. So
that's wild. Yeah. That is absolutely wild. Once again, thank you so much, brother. Thank you. Say goodbye to the peoples and have a wonderful night, my peeps.
Bye.
Thank you so much to everyone who continued to watch the show to the very end. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Make sure to hit that like button as fast as you can and as many times as you can until it is lit. Make sure it's lit, all right? Don't forget that. And thank you to everyone, as always. And don't forget, Onslaught Gaming 40K, where victory is just a strategy away. And most importantly, burn, maim, kill, blood for the blood god.